Hi and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at an alliance war with us GOM-P versus TGGN. This war is from a few days ago. I ended up bringing in Ultron, King Groot, and She-Hulk for a very interesting team and took on paths 4 and 3. This is a 10-fight war, so there's going to be a lot of interesting things here. So starting off, we had this Invisible Woman on Path 4, Section 1. I took King Groot into this fight because he inherently has the abilities to shrug off debuffs anytime that he has active Furies on himself, as you see right there. This fight is going to go extremely quickly, and I'm not even going to play for the max damage rotation. I'm just kind of going to hit into her, and she's going to die extremely quickly. King Groot is a surprisingly good Invisible Woman counter due to his ability to shrug off her fragility debuffs, which will then immediately turn off her invisibility, which you'll see here. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at King Groot versus Terrax on the long distance relationship node. My thought process going into here was very similar to Invisible Woman. However, King Groot's regen, I thought would be able to out heal the damage field that he has. I do end up taking a bit of damage throughout this fight. However, the debuffs on me through willpower and the regen that I have does end up keeping me pretty leveled out. As you can see on Terrax, my armor breaks are not actually permanent currently. That is because my rotation got messed up because of the debuffs being placed on me. The way King Groot works is that whenever you throw your special 1 while you have active Furies on yourself, 1 is converted into a permanent armor break, which unfortunately I was unable to get off. So those have fallen off, so I've tried to stack up a few more and make those permanent. That's always my goal with King Groot. I always try to stack up my permanent armor breaks. Here I take a few hits just due to a bad intercept. And here we're going to go for a massive special 2 while I have all of my Furies up. This does a lot of burst damage on hit, and then of course it deals the poison damage at the end, just ticking away for over 1,000 points of poison damage per tick. This is basically the end of the fight. I do take a little bit more of the aura damage here, get back into the corner, but luckily the willpower healing and King Groot's regen have kept us at a pretty steady health pool this entire fight. Next up, we have Ultron versus Heavy Hitter and Power Alternator Havoc. This fight ended up being a little bit slower than I had initially anticipated, mostly because he was not really playing ball. The AI was being a bit uncooperative, and he kept on charging up his heavy. Just got a little bit frustrating from time to time, but this fight ends up being very smooth. So here in just a sec, I end up trying to do a backdraft intercept, and he light intercepts me. This is exactly why invulnerability boosts come in handy so often. Ultron works extremely well as a Havoc counter because he has such easy access to stacking armor ups through his kit, and additionally the constant degen damage is going to tick him away since it is of course direct damage rather than any form of energy damage. Again, like I said earlier, this is a little bit of a slower fight. However, it is very safe with Ultron due to the regen, the evade, the armor ups, and all of that. Here we're going to go for our special 2. Now I could have tried to parry heavy him in order to stack up a lot more degens and be even bigger burst damage on our special 2. However, I really wanted to play this fight safely, and he did have some points of limber, so I just decided to be safer to play it normally, not have to go for too many re-parries with all of the game bugs going on right now. And now we have Havoc cleanly taken down, and we're going to move on to our next fight. Next up, we have a fight that I felt pretty confident going into. However, this is a great example of what happens when you are sort of overconfident about a fight. I go in here with She-Hulk against this Man-Gog on Mixmaster. This fight starts off so well. It looks very clean. I've got my spacing down right, and about halfway through, I lose my focus, and it's just a mess. This is a fight that doesn't look super great in the latter half. However, I'd rather leave it in and show off what actually happens instead of just show off, oh, these are all of my greatest fights. You can use this as an opportunity to learn on how to properly space yourself if you were a She-Hulk player and you see Man-Gogs around, and when not to try to retaliate with your heavy, and don't be dumb like I was. So here we're just going for our typical Fury ramp up. I actually lost them all right there, which is very unfortunate, so my damage falls off. So my slow had fallen off and I hadn't realized it right away, so he did evade me. Thankfully, he did not retaliate on it. We're going to keep on playing normally, go for our L1s, try to stack up Furies, and try to heavy counter his L1s. However, my spacing starts to get a little bit iffy. Starting right around here is when it starts going downhill big time. I believe it's this special one that I end up missing my spacing, and firing an L1 into block to try to back off and hope that he stayed passive, which he did not. So there goes my invulnerability boost. This is honestly where it starts really going downhill. I did not heavy counter on that L1, but I definitely should have, because as you'll see here in a second, the slow falls off and I don't actually notice. I tried to retaliate with a heavy on his special one, but my spacing is wrong and he ends up hitting me. Then he evades and I take another full combo. So now my focus is all sorts of messed up. Here I try to go for another heavy. I don't know what I was thinking. I was so lucky that that ended up landing where he definitely should have hit me. Gonna go for my special 2. Thankfully, a second hit crits. I'm gonna parry heavy, try to keep that slow up, because at this point, I'm worried. I do still have 50% health, but 50% health in war could go away extremely quickly if you end up messing up. This was certainly not the cleanest fight. However, like I said, I'd much rather showcase it and talk through it, because this is what war can be sometimes. You're going to mess up, things are going to happen, and that is okay. Next up, we're moving into section 2, and I'm on path 3 now. I've got a Guillotine 2099, and it's on Kindness Thorns, so I'm going to take in King Groot here, being bleed immune, and being able to gain extra charges anytime he misses, which you'll actually see me do on purpose. I think at least once this fight, maybe misremembering. Here we're just going to go for our normal rotation. We're going to stack up our permanent armor breaks. Another plus to King Groot here is that if she throws her L1, he is immune to her power drain. So this regen is topping us off nicely. Furies are stacking up. Gonna go for another L1 right here. Stack up more armor breaks. I did not mean to push her to her special 2 right here. I was hoping that she would throw it while I still had Furies up, so that I could shrug the Spectre. However, of course, she throws it the second that it goes away. So now all of my healing here is being very minorly reversed. However, I was hoping so that I didn't have to use any potions. We're going to go for a special 2, and King Groot's special 2 does 3 times as much burst damage against robots, so she is done very easily. Next up, we're taking She-Hulk into another fight. We're still boosted up. This one is up against a Juggernaut. This is a She-Hulk versus Juggernaut fight. I mean, it's going to be real quick. I did heal She-Hulk up, of course, from that Man-Gog fight just to be safe, even though I was very confident in this fight. but it's just going to go very quickly. I'm going to, parry heavy, keep that slow up on him as much as possible. The AI plays ball really well in this fight, so I can just constantly keep my furies stacked up. I'm trying to keep an eye on the explosive personality bar, or the armor ups from it, so that I don't end up taking a big burst of damage. However, as you can see, it's been 40 seconds and he's essentially done for. We're going to throw our special 2 here and it is over. Moving on, we are on the boss island now. We have a X-23 here on Vigorous Assault and Safeguard. I don't really understand this placement unless you're kind of hoping to catch somebody off guard with her healing on hit, I guess. X-23 is not a difficult defender, so I was really unworried about this fight. I've seen Bishop here a lot through the season. Actually, he is the next fight we end up taking, but because he is on the polka dot power node, this is why I brought in Ultron rather than my usual War Machine. So this fight is going to go just so quickly. I'm not going to go for the biggest damage possible. My entire point here is to try to keep the degens up so that I don't have to worry about Safeguard. X-23's regens are pretty short in duration, so it's really not difficult to end up being able to parry in this fight. Here I go for my parry heavy and then launch my special 2 so that I can have a big stack of cauterize, and then my degens are going to do a very significant amount of burst damage right here. There really isn't much more interesting to say or talk about in this fight, so I'm just going to let it play out. I end up throwing another special 2 and then the fight is over. Moving on, we have what has become my specialty fight in this Alliance War season, being Bishop. I don't think that there's been a war this season yet where we haven't seen Bishop somewhere on the boss island. Typically it is that Vigorous Assault Safeguard node, as there aren't a ton of counters that are very easy for him. However, because he was on polka dot power, this is actually why I chose to bring Ultron rather than War Machine. It was usually my go-to counter. War Machine, he could do this fight, however, you'd have to do a power start 1, and I don't think you'd be able to get back to your special 1 to chain them, so you wouldn't have any means of gaining power. Ultron having constant access to degen instead of bleeds against mutants makes him extremely viable for Bishop, as he's never going to be overloading. Here I accidentally throw my special 1 because I forgot about polka dot power, so I was thinking that because of the hits that I was dealing that I would be able to throw my special 2. Obviously not the case. This has stunning reflect, the special 1 stuns, I get stunned. Things like that happen sometimes, but luckily I had my invulnerability boost. I backed off during his special 1 aura. If you've seen any of my War Machine versus Bishop fights, you know that my goal is to have him throw the special 2 as much as possible so that I don't have to deal with the incinerates from the special 1. I do that by blocking a lot, as you can see, and trying to manipulate the AI into only being able to throw the special 2. And then right here, I have Bishop in the corner. I tried to back up and do another light intercept, however, it does not actually trigger, so I end up taking a full combo to the face. Always a great feeling in war. Love some of these input bugs, however, it is what it is. We're still in a time where that's going to be a possibility, but I am very ready for them to be fixed. Now that Bishop is down, we're just waiting for my good friend here, Axe, to finish placing a White Mag's pre-fight on Man-Thing so that I don't have to worry about the Limber node. We're going to go in here with She-Hulk again, and this fight is going to be really straightforward. There are a couple of times where his L1, I end up mistiming the dex. It doesn't end up being a big deal. I actually end up healing from this fight because of the armor break on me. This is your typical, She-Hulk versus extra large defender fight. It's going to go really quickly. So right here is what I was talking about when I said that I messed up the L1 timing. Here I just dashed back way too early. And it doesn't end up being an issue. The armor break ends up getting applied to me, but I end up healing up from it. I'm going to let this fight play out. There isn't really much to talk about with it. It's just a normal She-Hulk fight, invading out specials. I don't think I even end up taking any degen damage from brute force because the AI is very cooperative. But if you ever end up seeing a Man-Thing on this node, just know that She-Hulk is going to work extremely well for you. Moving on to our last matchup of the day, we have a rank 3 Peni Parker boss, who I'm going to take down with King Groot. This is the main reason that I brought King Groot today. He's an incredibly good Peni Parker counter, being immune to power drain, power burn, and then having the constant regen. He's just so good for it. This attempt is not going to go very well. I will tell you right now, I do end up dying to this encounter once, but it is entirely due to the fact that I just could not get into the flow of the fight, and then I ended up messing up really bad here shortly. But as you can see, whenever she auto blocks, he is not taking any damage back, and actually he's gaining additional stacks of fury because part of his kit is whenever he is auto blocked, misses, or is evaded, he gains extra charges while he's in cooldown. The constant regen is helping keeping us topped up, and I'm working on my typical rotation of building up my armor breaks. Here I'm hitting into her block as much as possible, and you're going to see that a lot through this fight and the next attempt as well. The main goal for me in this fight is to take down her shield. However, right here I ended up getting auto blocked, and the AI is just weird, immediately retaliated. So my focus right now is a little bit off already. I was really confident going into this fight. I've taken several pennies in the monthly EQ. I've taken some in Alliance War. Here is where it messes up though. Her special 2 is borderline unreactable, and I accidentally pushed her up to special 2. So I dodged back naturally on the first hit, and it ended up killing me outright. So moving on into our second attempt, we've still got our boost going. I got permission from my alliance leader to go back in. I throw in a power start 1 just so that I can start with my 3 immediate armor breaks so that I can get into my damage much quicker. This is going to be a little bit of a slower fight. However, King Groot is a very safe option, and I know that I say that as I just died to her once already. However, you'll see in this fight, I stay pretty much at the same health the entire time despite taking a lot of block damage, just because of the constant regen that he has. So we're going to go for, again, our usual rotation with him. We're going to build up our permanent armor breaks. We're going to bait out exclusively special 1s because, again, her special 2 is the worst. If you ever push her up to special 2, you have to block the entire thing, at least in my experience. If you try to dash back on the first hit and then block by the time the web shots come out, you're going to be taking the full rest of the special. It is not safe in any time that I've fought her. Here, of course, she auto blocks and goes immediately into special 1. So, it's not the cleanest fight. And several of my fights today have all been that same way. It's just a weird off war for me, and it is what it is. But I ended up being pretty happy with this war overall, bringing in a less than conventional team. And then this takedown of Peni is something that I'm very happy with. So we are currently about a minute and a half into this fight. It still is moving a little bit slower. However, you'll see some pretty big crits out of King Groot at this point, since my permanent armor breaks are up and since time has gone on in the fight. Part of King Groot's kit is his Furies gain up to 100% increased potency whenever Malice is active based on how long the fight has gone on, up to 100 seconds. 100 seconds has passed, so we have doubled the Fury potency on top of the fact that we have all of our armor breaks stacked. So you're going to see some really nice crits out of this guy despite her having the resistances and everything as well. Right here we're going to keep on moving back, keep on baiting out her special 1. Again, we do not want her to throw her special 2 whatsoever. That is a death sentence and I'm terrified of it. Here we're going to try to hit into her block and break down her shield. Again, that is the #1 goal you need. Here she parries me, and because King Groot can shrug off debuffs whenever he has Furies active, we don't end up taking any damage back. Throw a big special 2, get some burst damage. She is poison immune, so we don't get the actual poison off, and she's not a robot, so we don't deal the 3 times additional burst damage. But it still does a pretty nice amount of damage. And then here we're just going to keep on hitting into her, and she's going to go down very shortly. So I hope you enjoyed watching this takedown. Again, King Groot is such a good counter to Peni. I highly recommend ranking him up if you don't have him. I may end up doing a King Groot showcase or kit breakdown here soon. But again, I appreciate you watching. If you did end up liking this video, just let me know down below. If you've ended up learning anything at all, I would love to hear about it. And I appreciate you. So thanks and take care.